How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Mem Hey, Daf 45, or Masechta BavaKama, friends. Yo, friends. Apologies if there's noise in the background. I think that there's noise outside. I'm wearing my noise-canceling headphones, so I think that there's noise going on outside, so my apologies if there's noise in the background. Today we're going to go weiter in BavaKama, and we're going to finish, I hope, the fourth parak of BavaKama. So here we go. I'm shtickle tired, probably because I didn't sleep so much last night, but it's not late. It's like only 5:15 at night, so I shouldn't be too sleepy, so hopefully that'll be okay. It's not such a difficult daf, so I think we should be able to manage. So here we go. We're going to start on daf Mem Daled Amud Beis. 4 lines from the bottom at the Mishnah. Shoshu Yotze Lisakul. So if you have an ox that's being taken out to be stoned, an ox killed somebody and the verdict is in, the ox needs to be stoned, they're taken out to be stoned. Vekdushu Bailav. And at that point, the owner of the ox decides, I'm going to be makdish this ox to the Beis HaMikdash. Eino mukdash. You can't do that. It's too late. You can't be makdish it at that point. Shachato b'saru aser, and if he slaughters the ox at that point, you can't eat the meat. V'im ad shelo nigmar dino, but prior to the verdict, hikdisho ba'ilov mukdash. If the owner was makdish the ox prior to the gemar din, so then that's fine. It's hektish. V'im shachato b'saru muter, and prior to the gemar din, if he slaughters the ox and eats it, so it's mutter. He can enjoy it. Misar l'shomer chinam v'lashoyel lanoisei socher v'lasocher nichnusu tachas habaylim. You hear that? That if an owner gives an ox, this is unrelated to the previous part about the shor who kills somebody. No, this is stam. If a fellow gives his ox to a shomer chinam, an unpaid custodian, right? Somebody who's going to guard it for him for free, watch the ox for free. V'lashoyel, or if somebody borrows the ox. Lanoisei socher, somebody who is a paid custodian, that the owner of the ox is paying this fellow to watch the ox for him. V'lasocher, or somebody who rents the ox from the owner. Nichnusu tachas habaylim. So in all of these examples, this person, the shomer chinam, shoel, nosei socher, socher, they sort of take over the responsibility from the owner. Muad mishalem nezek shalim, v'tam mishalem chatzi nezek, that if it causes damage, so the custodian will be chayav. If it's a shor muad nezek shalim, if it's a shor tam chatzi nezek. Taner banan the start shor she'emis ad shelo nigmar dino. I'm sorry, shor she'emis. So if you have an ox that kills somebody, ad shelo nigmar dino. Now, if prior to the verdict, machro, the owner sells it, machar, so it's sold. Hekdesho mukdash, if he's makdish it, it's hekdish. Shachato b'saru mutter, if he slaughters it prior to the verdict, you can eat the meat. Hechziru shomer leveis bailav muchzer, if the custodian returned it to the owner prior to the verdict, so it's returned to the owner. And even if the Bezdin now comes and takes it from the owner can't say to the custodian, hey, pay me back. No, it was given back to the owner. It's the owner's problem now. Mishenigmar dino, however, once the verdict is in, micharo, if the owner sells it, eino machor, it is not sold. Ekdisho, if he's makdish it, eino mukdash, it's not ekdish. Shachato, if the owner slaughters it, b'saru aser, after the verdict, the meat is aser. Hechziru shomer leveis bailav eino muchzar. And at this point, if you have a custodian and he returns the ox that has been condemned to death after the verdict, he returns it to the owner, it is not considered returned, and I guess the custodian will still be chayiv to pay back the owner. Rabbi Yaakov disagrees with the Tanna Kama and says that no, even post verdict, the custodian can still return the ox to the owner. Okay. So let's say that the machlokas between the Tanakama and Rabbi Yaakov, in terms of post-verdict, can a custodian return the ox to its owner or not? So let's say, where am I? So lema BavaKama miflage the Rabbanan Sabri ein omrin be'isurei anoya arei shelcho lefanecho. That the rabbi said that by isurei anoya we cannot say harei shelcho lefanecho. And Rabbi Yaakov Savar omrin be'isurei anoya arei shelcho lefanecho. Whereas Rabbi Yaakov says fakert that by isurei anoya we can say harei shelcho lefanecho. What does that mean? Well, what's harei shelcho lefanecho? Harei shelcho lefanecho means here, right? Literally, harei shelcha, that which is yours, the fanecha is before you. That basically, if a fellow steals epis, he has to return it. Okay, but what if it's asur ba'ano? Right, an example that we're about to see in a second is, for example, chametz on Pesach. Right, let's say a guy steals a pie of pizza before Pesach. He steals a pie of pizza before Pesach, and then after Pesach he returns it to the victim, to the person who he stole it from. So the question is, can he say, like, look, I stole a pie pizza, here's your pie pizza. So on the one hand, he's giving back what he stole. On the other hand, it's chametz shavar lava pesach, it's asur ba'ano. So the question is, can you say, here, take it back, if it's now asur ba'ano? Okay, so what we want to say is, well, you have a custodian who is watching the ox, it then killed somebody, it went to Bezdin, it was the verdict is in, it has to be stoned, and now it's asur ba'ano, and now the custodian gives it back to the owner. So now that it's asur ba'ano, so we want to say that the machlokas between the Tanakama, who says that, right, the Rabbanan who say that you cannot return it to the owner, and Rabbi Yaakov who says you still can return it to the owner, is the question of harei shelcho lefanecho, that by isurei ano, such as this ox now that is condemned to be stoned, can you just say, look, here it is, take it back? So it sounds like the Chachamim are saying you cannot say harei shelcho lefanecho, whereas Rabbi Yaakov is saying that by isurei ano you can't say harei shelcho lefanecho. Okay, so again, back up a little bit to the 5th line of the page, or 6th line of the page. Lema BavaKama, if we say that the machlokas is thus: the Rabbanon, that the rabbis who say that he cannot return the ox post-verdict, Sabi ein omrin b'isuri anoya harei shelcho lefanecho, that by isuri anoya, such as this ox that's been condemned to be stoned, the custodian would be unable to say harei shelcho lefanecho, here, take it back. Rabbi Yaakov Savar omrin b'isuri anoya harei shelcho lefanecho, whereas Rabbi Yaakov who says that even post-verdict the custodian can return it to the owner. So Rabbi Yaakov holds that by isurei ano we can say harei shelcho lefanecha, here, take it back. You can say that according to Rabbi Yaakov. Amar Rabba, says Rabba d'chuli ama omrin isurei anoya be'isurei anoya harei shelcho lefanecha. Says Rabba, look, both the Rabbanon and Rabbi Yaakov hold that by isurei ano you can say harei shelcho lefanecha. So if that's the case, then why did the rabbi say that post-verdict the custodian cannot return the ox to the owner? Okay. So 1 second. So the chuli ama omen be isurei ano harei shelcho lefanecha. The imkain, because if that's not the case, niflog linin chametz b'pesach. Okay, that when it comes to chametz b'pesach, which I mentioned a few minutes ago, right? So if a fellow steals a pie of pizza before Pesach, and then he returns it after Pesach, the Chachamim say, even though now it's asur ba'ano, the Chachamim say, he can do that. It's allowed. That by isurei ano, you can say, harei shelcho lefanecho. So if that's the case, then why did the rabbis say over here then why do the rabbis say over here that he cannot return the ox post-verdict? Begomrin dino shel shor shelo befanov kamiflige. Well, here the question is, can you complete the verdict against this ox in absentia? That's the machlokas. Does the ox need to be in the courtroom or not? The Rabbanan Sabri ein gomrin dino shel shor ela b'fanav, that the rabbis hold that you may not condemn an ox to death in absentia. The ox must be there. And therefore, since the ox must be there, the custodian cannot return the ox after the verdict because the owner will say, the owner, right? So the owner does not need to accept the ox back post verdict, since the owner can make the argument, look, stunk. If the ox was not in the courtroom, then it could not have been condemned to death. If you would have returned it to me earlier, then I would have taken it down to the rushes down by the riverside. Now instead, stunk, you allowed Bezdin, you gave it over to Bezdin, and now it's condemned to death. It's your fault. I'm not taking back the ox now. It's your problem. Right, so again, if you would have given it back to me, I would have taken it down to the rushes down by the riverside. Now, stunk, you gave over my ox to Bezdin, and now I'm basically stuck. It's your fault. I'm not taking back the ox. Rabbi Yaakov says, "Fakert gomer dino shel shor shelo b'fanav." You can condemn an ox to death in absentia, and therefore, Rabbi Yaakov says that the custodian can give back the ox post verdict because the custodian will say, "Look, sof migamer avu gamer le ledino." At the end of the day, they would even be able to condemn the ox to death in absentia. So there's really nothing that you could have done anyways, because even if you would have taken the ox to the rushes down by the riverside, they would still condemn the ox to death in absentia. My time with the Rabbanon, how come the rabbis say that the ox must be there in court and cannot be condemned in absentia? Hashor Yisokov V'gam Ba'alav, you must, because the pasuk says in the context of an ox that needs to be stoned, it says Hashor Yisokov V'gam Ba'alav Yumos, and also the owner will die. To which we learn that like the death of a person is the death of an ox. Just like by capital punishment, the fellow would have to be in the court, can't be condemned for capital punishment in absentia. Therefore the ox also must be there. But Rabbi Yaakov says, look, I understand why people need to be in the courtroom and cannot be condemned for capital punishment in absentia, but because people, they can make arguments in their favor. But an ox, an ox isn't going to be making arguments in its own favor, and therefore it can be condemned even in absentia, according to Rabbi Yaakov. Now the Misad said, that if an owner of an ox gives it to a shomachinam, shoyel, socher, no say socher, shomer socher, so then in all these examples, they then bear responsibility for the ox. There are four who take the place of the owner, and these are them: shomer chinam, if an unpaid custodian; ve'ashoyel, a borrower; nosei socher, a paid custodian; ve'asocher, and a renter; harag, that if the ox, while under their watch, kills, tam and nerogin, so if it's a short time, it will be killed. Uftur min hakofer, and there will not be kofer because it's a short time. Mu'adin, if it is a short mu'ad, so nerogin, so the ox, of course, will be killed if it kills somebody. Mushaman is a kofer, and there would be kofer if it's a short mu'ad. V'chayav l'achzir dmei shor lebailov, and since the ox is going to be killed, they would have to return the value of the ox to the owner, chutz mishomer chinam, with the exception of a shomer chinam, right? So meaning a borrower or a paid custodian, right? So in these examples, if the ox is going to be killed, they're going to have to pay back the owner for the value of the ox, but not a shomer chinam, not an unpaid custodian. He would not be chayiv. So Amri Echidami, in what context would we say that the unpaid custodian would be potter from paying back the owner, but all the others would be chayiv? So idinatre, if it was being guarded properly, well then afilu kulu nami liftu, then all of them should be potter from having to pay back the owner if it was an ones. Rashi points out except for the shoel. The shoel is a borrower. The borrower is chayiv for onsin. But other than him, if it was being guarded properly, so then they should be potter. In all the cases, not just the shomer chinam. Ve'i de lo natre, and if it was not properly guarded, well then afidu shomer chinam nichayev. Then even a shomer chinam should have to pay back the owner, because shomer chinam is chayev for poshea if he's negligent. And if it's not being guarded at all, then it would be negligent, and even the shomer chinam would be chayev. So Amri Ochov Ma'iskin, they say here, what are we talking about? That the ox was being guarded, but not the best kind of guarding, right? It was in a room and it was locked, but it was in an enclosure and it was locked, but it was an enclosure that if a strong enough wind comes, it'll blow it away. So it's considered okay. It's guarded, but not a great being guarded situation. So shomer chinam calls lo shmira. So by a shomer chinam, an unpaid custodian. So look, he did the baseline of guarding it. So he's off hook. He's not going to have to pay back the owner if it gets free and kills somebody. But Hanoch lo calls a shmirason. But in the other scenarios, a sort of basic guarding would not be enough. It would have to be a shmira me'ula. It would have to be a stronger guarding. So therefore, they would be chayev for to pay back the owner. Amrei Kiman. So they say, who is this like? Iker Rav Meir. If it's like Rav Meir, the Amr socher kishomer chinam dami. Well, according to Rav Meir says that a socher, a renter, has the same halachas as a shomer chinam. Well, if that's the case, lisni chutz mi shomer chinam ve'asocher. Well, then, if it's like Reb Meir, so then it should say that not only a shomer chinam but also a socher would not have to pay back the owner. V'ik Reb Yehuda, and if it's like Reb Yehuda who says that shmir pchusa is enough for a shormud, well then V'ikra Yehuda the Amr socher can say socher dami. So if it's like Rabbi Yehuda who says that a socher is like an osei socher, i.e. only the shomer chinam would be potter, for having to pay back the owner, but everybody else, including the socher, would be chayiv to pay back the owner. Nesnei chutz, but again. But Rabbi Yehuda says that shmir pchusa is enough for a shormud. Well then, nesnei chutz mi shomer chinam. Okay, so say that shomer chinam is the only one who does not need to pay back the owner. But v'chulam b'mu'adim pturin linyan kofer. That all of them would be potter when it comes to kofar, because shmir pchusa would be enough for by shormud according to Reb Yehuda. But why are we saying that all of them are going to be chayev kofar if it kills? Amr Vuna bar Chinana Hamani Reb Eliezer. So we say, well, so this brisa is taka Reb Eliezer the Amar Ein lo shmira elasakin. The Reb Eliezer says that, as we're going to see in the Mishnah soon, that when it comes to a shormud, there is really no proper way to guard it, and that is why you're going to be chayev kofar. Within socher, but in terms of having to pay back the owner, Sarvila Rabbi Yehuda, he holds like Rabbi Yehuda, the Amar socher kanose socher, Dami that a socher is like kanose socher, and it's only the shomer chinam who would not have to pay back the owner. Abaye Amar says Abaye le'olam Reb Meir, that really the brisa is like Reb Meir. Really the brisa is like Reb Meir, and therefore I understand why they're chayiv kofar. Uchedemachlif Rabba bar Avua v'tani socher ketzad mishalim. How does a socher pay? Reb Meir omer kishomer socher. Reb Yehuda omer kishomer chinam. That Rabba bar Avua flips around, flips it around and says that according to Reb Meir, a socher is like a shomer socher, which means that only the shomer chinam would be potter from having to pay back the owner. Rav Lazar says, Rav Lazar, Maser Shoro the Shomer Chinam. If a fellow gives his shore to a Shomer Chinam, okay, to an unpaid custodian, Hizik, if the shore then causes damage, Chayev, then the Shomer Chinam can be Chayev if it damages. Huzak Potter. If it got damaged, so then it is potter. Am Rechi Damish. They say, what exactly is the scenario over here? Id Kabil Olei Shmiras Nizakov. Well, if the Shomer Chinam accepted upon himself responsibility for damages, well then Afilu Huzak Nami L'chayv. Well then, even if the ox got damaged, so then he should also be chayv, right? If he accepted upon himself the responsibility for the damages, so it'll be chayv both if the ox gores, but also if it gets gored for not protecting it. Even if he did not accept upon himself to guard it from being damaged, well then, even if it damaged others, he should be potter. Amarava says, really it's talking about a scenario where the shomer chinam did accept upon himself to guard from damages. However, that he already knew that this ox was a gorer, was aggressive. Where am I? Ustama de milsa de lo azil ihu umazik achrino kabil ale dasi achrine umazke le ledide lo asik adaite. And the shomer chinam, because he was familiar with the fact that this is an aggressive ox, so he accepted upon himself to guard, to make sure that this ox was not going to be aggressive towards others. Like that he was going to do, but he didn't think that others would dare to be aggressive towards this ox. This is a wild ox. It's the one that all the other oxen should be scared of it. Not that, right? So he didn't think that this ox was going to get damaged. He only assumed that this ox potentially could damage others, so he accepts upon himself he's going to guard it to make sure that it doesn't damage others, but he didn't think that he would have to make sure that others didn't damage it, because it's the big scary one. So therefore he didn't accept upon himself that, and therefore he's only going to be chayiv for if the ox damages others, but not if the ox gets damaged. Well, I'll tell you, I'm fading. My brain's not working so stark, so I hope what I'm saying is coherent and makes sense. My brain's shtickle turned off, but okay. I don't think that we have too much left. So now we get to a new Mishnah. Kasho bailav b'moser v'no b'fan of karoi. So if the owner of an ox tied it with a rope, v'no b'fanav, and closed the room, v'yotza v'hizik, and then but the ox nonetheless managed to break through and to break free and cause damage. So this is a shmir pchusa. Okay, he was tied up. It was right, and the door was locked. But I guess it comes a regular wind and kind of blows it away. So it was a shmir pchusa. And echatam vechadbur chayiv divrei Reb Meir. Reb Meir says that shmir pchusa, whether it's a short tam, whether it's a short muad, the owner is going to be chayiv. Reb Yehuda omer tam chayiv muad potter. Reb Yehuda says that actually only a short tam would be chayiv chatzi nezek for damaging when it was locked away in a shmir pchusa. But a shor muad would taka be potter, according to Rabbi Yehuda, as he learns it out from Psukim, as we're going to learn in the Gemara, and as it says over here, Shenemar v'lo yishmenu ba'ilov v'sharmuhu zeh. because when it comes to a shormud, it says that the owner needs to guard it, and this ox was guarded, right? It was tied up, and the room was closed. So therefore, by the shormud is taka potter, because that pasuk is by shormud. Rabbi Eliezer says, Rabbi Eliezer ein lo shmir elasak. When it comes to a shormud, says Rabbi Eliezer, there's no way to properly guard a shormud. Best to just slaughter it, because there actually is no way for it to be guarded properly. My time with Rabbi Meir, how come Rabbi Meir says that a shmir pchusa is inadequate, both by shortam and by shormud? Because Rabbi Meir holds that by default, oxen don't need to be guarded by default. The owner could just let them roam around and that's fine. However, but the Torah nonetheless says that if an ox, a shortam, gores, the owner is going to be chayiv, so you better make sure to do a basic level of guarding a shmir pchusa when it comes to a shortam. But then, by a shormud, the Torah says, v'lo yishmerenu, that the owner needs to guard it. To take it one step further, to say that a shmir pchusa is not enough, it has to be a shmir me'ula. And as we learned the other day, the pasuk says oben yigach or bas yigach. It says negicha twice to apply both a shortam and a shor mud, and therefore, according to Reb Meir, both the shortam and a shor mud require shmira me'ula. Right, again, because Reb Meir says that by default, I would think that an ox doesn't need to be guarded at all, but then from a shortam, we learned that no, an ox does need at least basic shmir pchusa, but then by a shormud it says v'lo yishmerenu, to say that one step further needs to be a shmir me'ula, and we apply that halacha to shortam as well, that both by a shortam and by a shmurmud, what? Shmurmud? Both by a shortam and a shmurmud, it would have to be shmira me'ula. Okay, fine. Where am I? Rabbi Yehuda Savar says Rabbi Yehuda stam shvarim b'chezkas shimur kaime. So Rabbi Yehuda disagrees, and he says that no, a stam ox does need a basic level of guarding, which is shmir pchusa. Now Amar Achmana tam nishalim tinibai le shmir me'ula. But then the Torah says that by a short tam, if it gores, you're going to have to pay, i.e., the stam guarding the shmir pchusa is not enough. You're going to have a shmir me'ula. But then also by a shmur it says v'lo yishmerenu, that you're going to be chayiv if you don't guard it, i.e. you have to guard it, which also is therefore saying that you have to guard it with a proper guarding. Have a riboy achariboy, which is basically a double inclusion, right? Meaning initially, by default, we assume that by an ox you'd have a basic level of guarding. And then the Torah says that by a shortam, the basic level is not enough, it has to be a shmir me'ula. And then the Torah says again by a shor muad that you have to guard it, that it has to be a shmir me'ula. So why do we say both by a shortam and by a shor muad it needs to be a shmir me'ula? It's a riboy achariboy. It's coming to include something after it's already been included, right? It included it by shortam, then it included it again by shormud. And when you have a riboy after riboy, it's actually coming to exclude mi'etakas of the shmir me'ula. And what it's coming to exclude is that actually by a shormud you do not need a shmir me'ula. It's enough by a shormud with a shmir pchusa. That is what the Torah is teaching, that even though by a short tam you need a shmira me'ula, by a shormud it would be enough with a shmira pchusa according to Rabbi Yehuda. V'chitema negicha letam negicha lemud. And if you're going to suggest that the same halacha should be by tam and a mud, that the same halacha should be by tam and a mud, hamiyet rachman v'lo yishmerenu lazeh v'lo le'acher. Yes, but the Torah says v'lo yishmerenu, that by a shor hamud, it says v'lo yishmerenu, that dafka a shor muad is enough for Shmir Pchusa, but not anything else. Not a shor tam. It would be not. Now that would not be enough for the Shmir Pchusa. You need Shmir Me'ula. V'hami baile lilav. But one second, this V'lo Yishmerenu is not to teach this drasha that davka the Shmir Pchusa is enough by a shor amud, but not by a shor tam. It's V'lo Yishmerenu is pasha needed to teach that, right, that if you don't guard your ox, you're going to be in trouble. If it was only to teach that you have to guard your shor muad, then it should say v'lo yishmor. What's v'lo yishmerenu? V'lo yishmerenu, that specifically this halacha of shmir pchusa being enough is only by shor muad, not by shor tam. Shor tam would need a shmir me'ula. Tanya, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Omer says Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Echad tam ve'echad muad sheshama shmir pchusa potter. Says Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov that shmir pchusa is enough not just by shor amud but even by a shor tam. My time I'll come Rabbi Yehuda because he holds like Rabbi Yehuda the Amar muad b'shmir pchusa sagile, that shmir pchusa is enough by a muad, and v'yalef negich l'tam negich l'muad, that the same halachos apply both to a tam and a muad, and therefore if a shmir pchusa is enough by a muad, then it's also going to be enough by a tam, according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Omar Rav Ada bar Hava says Rav Ada bar Hava lo pater Rabbi Yehuda ela tzad ha'adah shebo. That when Rabbi Yehuda says so, according to Rav Ada bar Hava, when Rabbi Yehuda says that by a shor muad a shmir pchusa is enough, but by a shor tam it needs a shmir me'ula. So if you do a shmir pchusa by a shor hamuad, so we say pater. According to Rabbi Yehuda, so it says of Ad bar Hava, yeah, you're potter for the muad part, but not for the tam part, right? We've seen before this concept of that Rabbi Yehuda holds tzad tamas b'mkoma omedes, that when you have a tam that becomes a muad, right? That for example, a short tam is chayiv chatzi nezek, shor muad is chayiv nezek shalem, for example, or in this example right here, that by a shor tam, shmir pchusa is not enough, but by a shor muad, shmir pchusa is enough. So even Rabbi Yehuda, when he says shmir pchusa is enough for a shor muad, it's only for the muad part of it, but the shor tam b'mkoma omedes, that the half of the ox which is treated with the halachos of a shor tam, so then the shmir pchusa would not be enough for that half of the ox. Aval tzad tamus b'mkom omedes, because the tzad tamus remains there still. Amar Rav says, Rav, muad lekeren yomin and a muad lekeren small, that if you have an ox that has two horns, a right horn and a left horn, if it gores with its right horn, so it's a muad with regard to the right horn, but it's never gored with the left horn, so it's a tam. If it were to gore with its left horn, it would only be chatzi nezek. Now the assumption is that this is with regard to that this machlok, right, that Rav's statement about the right horn being a muad and the left horn being a tam. The assumption is that this is with regard to what levels of guarding are necessary for each horn. So Amrei Aliba Deman, say according to whom is Rav's statement? If it's according to Rav Meir, well, Rav Meir says that there's no difference between a tam and a muad. That whether it's a short tam, whether it's a short muad, it's going to have to be a proper shmira. It's going to have to be a shmir me'ula. And therefore, what does it mean that the right horn is a tam, the right horn is a muad, the left horn is a tam? At the end of the day, both need the same level of guarding according to Reb Meir. Yeliba to Reb Yehuda, if it's according to Reb Yehuda, well, my area Karen small, afilu b'yomin nami is beit tzad tamus, vis beit tzad muadus. Now, if you're Reb Yehuda, who says that a muad is enough with shmira pchusa and a tam needs a shmira me'ula, well, still, so the left horn is a tam, so it needs a shmira me'ula according to Reb Yehuda. Now, the right horn is a muad, so shmira pchusa is enough, but shmira pchusa is only enough for the muad part of it, right? The tzad tamas b'mkom omedes, that even the right horn is part muad, part tam, so the muad, the shmira pchusa is enough, but by the tzad tamus of the right horn, the Shmir Pchusa would not be enough. So both, ultimately, by the left horn and the right horn, Shmir Pchusa would not be enough. So Amrei le'olam kid Rabbi Yehuda. Really, it is like Rabbi Yehuda. V'lo svir le Rav Ada bar Ahava, but he doesn't hold like Rav Ada bar Ahava. That Rav Ada bar Ahava had said Tzad Tamas b'mkom omedes. But if you don't say Tzad Tamas b'mkom omedes, and that the right horn is entirely muad and the left horn is entirely tam, well, if that's the case, then the left horn needs a shmira me'ula. The right horn would be enough for the shmira pchusa. BavaKama, this is what it's saying. Ki agavno hu de mishkachas bei tzad tamus umuadus. That in this scenario, we find in this one cow both the tzad tamus and the tzad muadus, that the right horn, which is tzad, right, which is muad. So then it would be enough for the shmira pchusa, whereas the left horn, which is a tam, would require shmira me'ula. But if you have an ox that's entirely muad, both the right horn and the left horn, lo mishkachas bei tzad tamus klal, then there would be no tzad tamus, because we're not saying like Rav Ada bar Ahava, we're not assuming tzad tamus from komo medis. In which case, if it was both horns were muad, then it would only be nezek shalim. There would be no tzad tamus over there, and shmir pchusa would be enough. Rabbi Eliezer Omer ein lo shmir l'sakin. Rabbi Eliezer had said in the Mishnah that a shormua, there's no way to properly guard it. The best thing to do is to slaughter it. So Rabbi says, Rabbi, my time with Rabbi Eliezer. Why does Rabbi Eliezer say this? The Omer Krok, because the pasuk says, "V'lo yishmirenu shuv ein lo shmira loze." Right, that when you have a shormua, right, the pasuk says in the context of a shormua, "V'lo yishmirenu," and Rabbi wants to say that Rabbi Eliezer learns that this pasuk means v'lo yishmerenu shuv ein lo shmira loze. Once it's a shormur, there's no way to guard it. The best thing you can do is just slaughter it. Abaye says to Rabbi, but elamiyata, if that's the case, dichsiv v'lo yichasenu, that when it comes to a pit, when it says v'lo yichasenu nami shuv ein lo kisui loze, what, there's no way to cover it? If we say, yeah, there's no way to cover a pit, that if you do properly cover a pit, and then a ox or a donkey falls in, vames, and dies, potter. The owner is going to be potter. So we see that there is a way of covering the pit, and also there should be a way to guard this ox. Why is Rabbi Eliezer saying that the best thing to do is to slaughter it? Elam Abai rather says Abai Hainu Taime. Eliezer, this is what Rabbi Eliezer says, that there's no way to guard it. Kiditania is within the advice of Rabbi Nasan. It says Rabbi Nasan minayin shelo yigadol adam kelev rabbis beis. So how do we know that a person should not raise an evil dog in his house? Val yamid sulama'ua b'soch beis, and he should not have a rickety ladder in his house that people can fall on. Shenema v'lo sosum dam v'veisecha, that you should not place blood in your house. I mean, you shouldn't have dangerous things around, and therefore here also by this ox, what Rabbi Eliezer is saying is that you just simply shouldn't keep dangerous things around, so that is how he learns that there's no good way to guard this ox, because if it's dangerous, you got to get rid of it. Hajan Allah shoshnoga chabav chamisha. We'll come back to shoshnoga chabav chamisha. Wow, I got pretty tired on that daf. My brain kind of wasn't working so incredible. I'd say I hope you enjoyed. Peace out.